Hello, everybody. It's Sarah Boothby, and these are Conversations for Restoration. And I'm here with Brooke Waters. And so,
Yay.
yay, for some of you, you're like, Brooke Waters, how did you get Brooke to come and talk to you? She's so busy talking to Jason Clark on Rethinking God with Tacos, but Brooke is here. Yeah.
I'm so
So,
excited. Yeah, this is
yeah.
great.
Well, and thank you for coming on, Brooke. So, Brooke is, like I said, Rethinking God with Tacos, part of the A Family Story group. She's got her website at Path to Wholeness and provides therapy, counseling, spiritual directing, right?
hmm Yeah,
And
that's a well-rounded term.
yeah, and she's an author as well. So of course, I'm thinking let's bring Brooke into the conversation and see how we land in just noticing the the restorative place that we're all trying to
Mm.
pursue and to experience. So I guess for you, Brooke, I don't know. I kind of feel like I just want to go right to. I love going to this with clinicians. This word deconstructing, and
hmm
it's fascinating because it's really spiritualized right now with a lot of
hmm
Christian-minded folk. But for
Yeah,
us therapist-y people, how do you hold space? What are your thoughts, your philosophical view of deconstruction?
that's a great question. And I don't think anyone's ever asked me just flat out what my thoughts are on that. So,
Yes.
so I probably will externally process as we talk about this. So I personally, I don't think deconstruction is a negative term. We'll just start there. I think we all deconstruct. We even deconstruct our food, right? It's like I'm having a salad that has taco meat on it. We'll just use the tacos, but it's still tacos, right? I don't know. It's just in chips, right? So it depends on, I think, your baseline, where you're coming from with deconstruction. If it's scary to you, then I mean, that makes sense because you've put all your eggs in one basket. And if things are starting to peel back and those belief systems that you've had are kind of falling apart or to the wayside for you, it can be very scary. But to me, deconstruction is very healthy, and it allows place for curiosity. It allows place for wonder and mystery versus certainty and judgment. Deconstruction also is, I mean, Jesus, if we just want to be real about it, he deconstructed a lot of things.
Mm,
I think deconstruction is scary to people because of this idea of like they're going to peel it all the way back, and then what if it's still wrong?
mm.
And there's scary and uncertainty. There's fear and uncertainty. And that's I think that's my overall thought about deconstruction, but I actually love it. It
Mm-hmm.
just brings in a awareness, a new awareness to your thought process that wasn't there before, is
Yeah,
what I would say.
yeah, if when we are, I mean, it is scary and it is risky to challenge our own thinking.
Yeah.
Especially when we don't afford ourselves opportunity for curiosity.
hmm
And curiosity is a superpower. You know that. That's like the
Yep.
bulk of our work is we're curious about these beautiful, unique individual people that we meet with.
hmm
Mm-hmm. And I want to catch something that you said because I hadn't thought about it this way, but like Jesus deconstructed. And when I think of deconstructing, I think sorry, I hate saying an absolute, but I don't believe it can happen in just one philosophical realm. And when we look at
hmm
Jesus, he wasn't just like doing theology stuff. He was doing sociology stuff. He was doing
hmm
economy stuff. He was doing political stuff. And so,
hmm
yeah, like, yes,
He was
that,
breaking it all down.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
beautiful remembering. Um, so then for you, curiosity, what do you think? I guess like how do you see curiosity just benefiting yourself, your work with people? You see your clients using curiosity?
Oh, that's great. I will sit and talk about curiosity over contempt all
Yay.
day long. Um, I think so. Another term, I when I talk about curiosity versus contempt, another phrase I will say to help people grasp it better is to operate as a scientist versus a judge. A scientist leads us to asking more questions. A judge makes a decision without any more understanding. And curiosity allows us to seek to understand. It allows room for, hey, maybe I don't know everything, and hey, maybe you
Maybe,
don't either. You know what I
maybe,
mean?
maybe,
Maybe.
maybe.
I won't be a judge about it. I'll be curious about it. But this idea that it doesn't have, like, how many of us are in our 30s and 40s and look back and be like, or 50s, whatever age, we all look back and be like, man, I really thought I knew some things, right? But when we want to apply it to specific spheres, curiosity over contempt, or curiosity, especially in the world of religion, we'll just say that it gets feisty. People get feisty. But that comes back to fear and needing to be certain, though. But curiosity for me, like all day long, I'm going to seek to understand. And I think that is moving towards connection versus and staying connected with person versus me making a judgment about you. And in that moment, that judgment, whether it's right or wrong, will cause a form of separation or a wall or something, because it's no longer allowing a give and take. It's like, nope, this is the thing. Now there are places for judgment. I don't want to say there's not, but relationally and just even through life, I'm gonna choose curiosity and seek to understand and really aim to hear what's being said and spoken, and not just by verbal, but by the whole person, and just watching everything. But and be curious about it. And I think that's also softer. It's a
Oh,
lot more caring.
it is. It's a space for nonviolence. It's
Mm-hmm.
a space to move within the pace of love's kind. We're better able to match. I also think when I hear you speaking, there's so many things because I love you, Brooke, and then you say things I'm like, but I've been thinking that, like the
Oh,
science, the notion of the scientist,
yeah, that's fun.
and it is fun to think about hypothesizing and theorizing. And then I think from a narrative therapy point of view, like each person is the author of their own life, the expert on their own story.
Mm-hmm.
And when we
Mm-hmm.
hold reverence for this individual to know that
Mm-hmm.
you have this storybook about you that you're holding,
Mm-hmm.
and it's maybe it's an audible book because only you can read the story to me. If I read it without your voice, I'm going to read it
Mm-hmm.
wrong.
Mm-hmm. No, that's good. And then even stepping in and saying, hey, I know something better for you than you know for yourself can be very debilitating for people. And I think it happens more often than not. And
Yeah.
that removes the curiosity. That's also becoming the judge. And on the flip side of that, it also, like, people being curious with me and more inquisitive and versus judging, right? It's like when we feel judged, we want to completely just wait a second. You don't know the whole story. You didn't ask me any questions. You didn't clarify anything. You just made an assumption and a judgment. And now it's done. There's no room for growth and relationship on the other side
Mm-hmm.
of it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And being curious about ourselves, being curious about others, being
Mm-hmm.
curious about God, um, like a scientist. And I think of us through a humanistic lens and a science lens, because we're all these like delicate chemical equations, our own
Mm-hmm.
unique balance with our own unique experience. That's so honoring. But I think too, I don't know, I'm curious about what you'll say about this, is like Jesus entering into the human experience, being
Mm-hmm.
fully human. He entered into being a scientist
Mm-hmm.
of the human experience. That
Yeah.
blows my mind. That's what I think. And I'm like, what do other people think about this? Like, Jesus's experience of like having neurological experience, having a biological
Mm-hmm.
experience, having an emotion life and a thought life, and
Right.
having to figure it all out. He went through developmental stages.
Uh-huh.
Like, that's
Right.
science.
And choosing to do that. Some of it's like, I wish I didn't have to do this, and he made the choice to enter that, and because he's choosing relationship and the connection. And I love that. I haven't ever really thought about him stepping into as a human out of not kindness, but out of under certainty. Oh my
Mm.
gosh, out of curiosity. I haven't ever really thought about that. I'm gonna have to sit and think about that for a minute. That's great.
I like that language too, because I hadn't used the word curiosity. I'm writing a paper and I use the word scientist, but it is a curiosity. And I think it's a reverence for and a respect for humanity.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's
Yeah.
loving and compassionate. And it's saying, I want to meet you in an experiential way.
Mm-hmm.
It's, bottom up theology. It's leading from within leadership, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not authoritative.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can't operate, and I can't think of the name right now, it's fleeting, but we cannot operate out of curiosity and contempt at the same time. It has to either be one or the other. So if you feel yourself going into contempt, or judgment, then it's like, for me, I have to step back and be like, what has happened that I am now no longer curious about this situation or this person or this scenario, that I have to step back and find out what judgment I've made or why I'm in contempt. Partially, probably because I'm angry about something or hurt is usually what it ends up being.
Yep.
But
Yep.
they can't operate at the same time. It's either one or the other.
Yeah, they're in contrast.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, even when we hold them closer, which potentially as we move to hold more curiosity rather than contempt, then it would be an underrated and unnoticed emotion, often confusion, like just this confused
Mm-hmm.
place as we begin. And that can be a spot where we lose our footing or start to believe
Yeah.
we're doing something wrong.
Yeah, for sure. And then fear sets in, all these things that can start happening and needing to be certain all over again. It can be a cycle, an
Yeah.
interesting cycle that plays into itself.
Yeah, and when we were talking with Jason on Rethinking God with Tacos, and I'm like 87% sure that you said this. Pretty sure. But it's an acronym of HALT. I'm pretty sure you mentioned it. I'm sure you know what it
Yeah,
is.
yep.
But that's a
I
time we
mentioned
get
halt.
wobbly. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mentioned halt and blast. Yeah, for sure.
Yes. Okay, mention them again.
Halt is so halt and blast are two acronyms that I use for red flags that trigger us into a cycle. So halt is hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Blast is bored, lonely, angry, stressed, or tired.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're feeling that way underneath either one of those, we tend to be triggered into a repetitive cycle that sometimes we feel stuck in that we can't get out of, but we can. It's just, you
Yeah.
have to be very intentional.
Yeah, and then we know too, like you and I know about the cycle of compulsive behavior, or the cycle that gets us hooked into the things we don't really want to do. And
Mm-hmm.
then part of changing the cycle into what we hope for, or a place of renewal, there's a
Mm-hmm.
mindfulness of catching our thinking and our feeling to move into a positive ritual.
Mm-hmm.
But when hungry, angry, lonely, tired, when bored, lonely, angry, stressed, or tired shows up, that can be a place
Mm-hmm.
where we get wobbly
Yes.
and wonder, maybe I should go back to what was comfortable, or maybe I should just give up and stop completely.
Yeah, it's true. And wanting to yeah. And sometimes it's not a bad idea to stop completely. Sometimes we
Sometimes.
might need to, yeah. But that is also can, it's hard because those things can end up being, yeah, debilitating in ways where hopelessness can come in. And
Mm,
I always have a heart for people who feel stuck in their routine and their motion, but also emotion, but stuck in their routine, feeling stuck in their day to day that have become habits and not understanding that their body's just en route.
mm,
And really, when we make a choice, I hope this isn't too off what we were just talking about, but when we make a choice and we put our brain back in charge when our body had been in charge, because we've been moving in like just habits. And it's just like, you think about, oh my gosh, what did I do today? Everything was just habit. You're not really awake per se. You're just doing everything all out of rote movement. But when we shift and we make a decision to do something different and put our mind back in charge versus our body, the biggest obstacle that we have to deal with is discomfort.
mm,
And nobody likes to feel uncomfortable. So what
yeah.
ends up happening is when we take the control out of our body and put it back into our mind, our body's going to complain. Like if I decide that I want to start getting up at 6 a.m. every morning and I'm used to getting up, we'll just say 7:30 or 8, right? And the first day I made the cognizant choice to get up at 6, my alarm goes off. I hear it and my body's like, no, I'm tired. I don't want to get up. I have a choice in that moment to whether or not I'm going to let my body still be in charge or the decision that I had made. And that moment is the discomfort. And people will delineate to feeling comfortable versus uncomfortable. And I especially if you don't know have the tools, like what am I supposed to do? Or if you're not even aware, some may not even be aware they're uncomfortable and they're just wanting to stay out of that zone.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make
I
sense?
love
Yeah.
that totally, and that fits on so many levels. And what I hear you saying, because there's when we're trying to change our negative cycle,
Mm-hmm.
the cycle that is driving us into the ground, the cycle that is, you know, maybe when we're using the word contempt, when I'm
Mm-hmm.
cycling into a mindset of contempt, of absoluteness, of judgment, and I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
change it for the better. um there could be a place where I stop.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully there's a better, hopefully it's a place where I pause and
Yeah.
ponder the discomfort, because the
Mm-hmm.
discomfort, when we apply curiosity, is insight
Mm-hmm.
into moving forward into, say, curiosity, or a renewed understanding of love.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty, it's in the trench work of it. That's
Mm-hmm.
hard work. I will say
Yeah.
too, I don't know how you view this. We both have history of being addictions recovery, relapse prevention counselors.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just having this epiphany of an image of the old cycle and the new cycle, and this sort of a live line between the old and the new, and having such empathy for people in that
Mm-hmm.
space when we're trying to catch the discomfort, when we're trying to
Mm-hmm.
renew the better thoughts, when we are sacrificing things that meant so much to us, when we're having to change relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this piece of like some of the people that you and I care about working with right now, the people who are leaving what they viewed as a, a maladaptive pattern of religion,
Mm-hmm.
the automatic motion, the automatic thinking,
Mm-hmm.
behaviors, defaults, and this person moving through this living line towards a renewed place of divine love. So there's these there's us who have experienced that space,
Hmm.
and then there's us coming alongside of each other in that space. So the
Hmm.
aloneness, I guess, I don't know, if you have thoughts or insights how you might say that, or how you see.
Yes. Yes. It is hard when um hmm. Can you can you ask me in a different way what it is that you're
This is
asking
how
me?
this is how therapists talk to each other. I guess I like, my heart breaks for people who are enduring the dark night of the soul of
Hmm.
moving out of a religious experience that actually hurt them,
Hmm.
because I can empathize, and
Yes.
I can experience my own experience, and so my heart can feel a feeling for that person, and I don't get to know every single person that's doing it.
Hmm.
And so I guess I'm like, maybe even that word, what has your own empathy taught you as you see people going through this process? Yes.
Oh, it never fails. Why? um, Partially because I understand the pain myself
Mm-hmm.
and the need that I had for someone to come alongside. And I don't think, and I don't, this isn't a dig towards people, and hopefully it doesn't come out across that way, but sometimes people just don't know what to ask
Mm.
and what to do for a multitude of reasons. It could be community, it could be nurturing, it could be nature, it could be, insert whatever. And I think the capacity to try to figure things out on your own can be very limited. But the way I grew up was I believed this narrative that I had to figure it out all on my own because there wasn't anyone else. And in that capacity, there was so much grace from the Trinity to be able to do that. I don't think that's the same for everyone. I take my experiences and that, like, yeah, there was a lot of cost that happened because I did had to go through all of that, but I don't sit and wallow in it. I'm like, okay, I know how that felt. I'm going to come alongside so you don't have to feel that way and you don't have to
Mm.
be alone in it.
Yeah.
The hardest part for me is when people still choose it,
Yeah.
when people still choose the aloneness and
Yeah.
not realizing that there's so much more. And part of it is because they either just don't value themselves, they don't see themselves as whole, they're lacking something. And my heart and my cry for people is that you're not broken.
No.
Despite everything that you've experienced, you're not broken and you're not lacking anything at all. So I
Yeah.
I I have a lot of empathy and a big heart just to come alongside people in their journey, not to figure it out for them, but to help them figure it out because they're fully capable. They just may
To-
not know what to ask in that moment or may not have, you know, I don't know.
I didn't know
I
what
don't,
to ask in that moment. Like, I hear you saying that there's, like, you and I from experience, and thank you, Brooke, for feeling the feelings. And in our field, it's so exciting when the emotion shows up, because it's like, it's a beautiful part of who we are. So thank
mm-hmm,
you. Um, but we don't always know the questions, and we definitely don't know the answers.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it feels easier. Well, I don't know what to do, so I'm just not going to do anything, you know? Um, instead of just maybe extending that hand out and just telling a friend, hey, I don't know what to do here. But even that can be hard for people because they don't know how to do it. It's
Yeah.
like, what do you mean ask for help? I did. I called you and I said, hey, you want to come over? It can be that simple.
Yeah.
But other people, I don't know. It's so complex sometimes, but it's so simple sometimes, you know?
It is. We overcomplicate those simple things, those things that are hidden in plain sight. And I appreciate you noticing, like, the lie is that we do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is that we are adopted into the same heart of love as everybody else. We belong to
Right.
inclusive love, and the language you use is Trinity. I remember too, thinking about that alive line between the old and the new. And I had this epiphany. I don't mind 12 steps. I don't think it's for everybody. But
Right.
one of the things that 12 steps has right is to say there is a supernatural other, a higher
Mm-hmm.
power that
Mm-hmm.
can be with you even when you
Mm-hmm.
feel all alone. And you know what would be a good idea? Grab a hold of somebody who's walked this line before, get a sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
one of the most beautiful Bible studies I've ever participated in is the step study, the 12 step
Mm-hmm.
study. Um, and that I hear that in you as well, whether we, hold the parallel of 12 steps.
Mm-hmm.
It's the lie is I'm alone.
Yeah.
Baxter Kruger says my I am nots.
Mm-hmm.
I call it my I belong alone. I don't know what you'd call it.
Um, Honestly, I don't know if I have a phrase for it other than it's just doing life with people, and learning how to do life with others and knowing that you can make the choice. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where you could be in a room full of people and still feel lonely,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that comes from our lack of understanding of union, is what I think that comes from.
Mm.
Just in case, in point to what you're saying. But it's like once we understand our union, right? There's a difference between being alone and being lonely.
Mm.
We're never alone. We might feel lonely, and that's okay. That just points to, that's just information. It just points to something going on in your life, but we're not ever alone. And when we can understand that, it ties into our understanding of union and
Mm.
knowing that we're never alone.
Yeah,
And there's hope in that. There's
totally.
hope
And
in that.
that's a reframe too. It's like when I touch the block, when I get stuck in the trenches and a list of I am nots show up, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm gathering proof of why I belong alone.
Mm-hmm.
The better truth is, how can I lean into unity? And how
Mm-hmm.
can I lean into my belonging and
Right.
question, wonder on how I am included just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I love that, Brooke.
It's so funny. Ever since I was probably like 18 or 19, I had this mission statement for my life. And I don't know why I wrote it. It wasn't even because I was going to church or anything like that. I just had like this resolve, I think, in me, but was to help people know that they belong, that they're significant, and they have a purpose.
Mm.
And as we were just talking about this, I was just honestly reminded, because I don't sit and like, oh, this is my mission statement in life. I don't do that. But it, like, I was reminded, just even in with the belonging, you said that, and I'm like, oh, yeah, like that has been my heart for people, is to know that they belong, because we do. We all have significance and we all have purpose. And so it's it's hard when we don't know that about ourselves.
Yeah. And I want
Yeah.
to scoop something up here because I mean, again, part of secure attachment or insecurity is being able to look back on our past as both but good and bad. And
Hmm.
sometimes when we've rediscovered and we've allowed ourselves to notice the mystery of our beautiful relationship with the Trinity. We can get kind of annoyed with that old self, and
Yeah.
they're rad. You know, like Brooke's younger self, she's rad. Listen to the mission statement. Well, you said that. I heard my own echo. So I want to say my echo, because if
Yeah.
you hear Brooke's echo, and then this is mine, and maybe you'll hear your younger wise self's echo. And I used to start my prayers with like, Father God, move and mold and mend and break.
Mm,
And move and mold and mend and break. And
beautiful.
you know, these things of like, wow, you know, that lineage is still in me, just as your
Hmm.
mission statement, the lineage of our younger selves seeking,
Hmm.
you know, it's just fabulous. Yeah. Yeah. So here's two professional coming alongside peoplers saying, come alongside of people.
Yeah, basically. We all need people.
We all need people. And I want to just talk a little bit about your beautiful offerings, to how you're participating in this environment of oh, I'll call love's energy, but this
Okay.
inclusive space. But before we just any other sort of noticings, anything in this landscape of helping self, helping others, noticing blocks or blind spots,
Hmm.
reframing towards hope.
Um, I think there's a huge narrative that, and I don't know if it's in the religious sphere or in the world of religion or if it's outside of that as well. I see it more so in the world of religion, but you can tell me what your thoughts are on that. I'd love to hear. But the narrative or the lie that you're the problem
Mm,
and that you need fixed. Just this idea that and even when people are expected, this is along the lines of some spiritual abuse experience. So just to put that out there, and but even when the world's expecting you to put language and words to things that you know but you don't know how to explain them, and then you're like belittled or ignored because you don't have proof. Like, where in scripture does it say that? Where in X, Y, and Z? Where can you show me that? When maybe it's the union we have in us that is our steadfastness, like that anchor. And I'm like, I know that I know that I know, but I don't know how to prove it. And
mm,
so I part of that, I just really want to encourage people in to, it's a hard place to be in. It is a hard place to be in, but I want to encourage people that it's okay to not be able to have to explain something, and to know that you know, and be okay with that's enough.
yeah.
And if people demand more, you can graciously, like, no, this is what I have. You can either take it or leave it, however you want to use your language in that. But that part of that is understanding boundaries. And I'm in the middle of actually writing a book on boundaries. About, I love Henry Cloud and John
Mm,
Townsend, but their theology comes from a place of separate, not connectedness. And
mm,
so I their concepts are great. There's some great stuff in there, but I'm like, oh, I what if I did this from a place of union? So I've been working on that, just so you know. And
fabulous.
so part of that comes from that for me, but just encouraging people that they're not the problem. And I mean that in a way of how do I word that? I just think um, it comes from a place of abuse where people are just trying to assert their own authority over someone and make them small,
Yeah.
and just teaching people to be silent
Yeah.
and to not trust their gut, even using scripture saying like your heart is deceitful above all else, it's just all these things. And people who are in the midst of it maybe don't realize
Yeah.
and that conflict that's going on inside of them because they can sense something's not right but don't have a language for it, but their
Hmm.
body is telling them something. So I just, again, I just want to encourage that they're not the problem. And if any of that resonates at all, what I've said to anyone, please reach out to Tara or I, because that's a hard place to be in.
Yeah.
And I don't want anyone to feel alone in it. So,
Yeah. And I think it's what's hidden in plain sight, and you're really saying this clearly, Brooke, is abusing another,
mhm,
traumatizing another is always about power.
yeah,
And so that's the pain when we've accidentally lorded power over somebody else. That's some of that
right.
like dark thing of like, oh, I just hurt somebody so bad. But
Yeah.
also, too, when we have been abused or traumatized, somebody has lorded power over us. And
Hmm.
so when we start to move on to that living, breathing line of recovery, rediscovery,
Hmm.
it is frightening.
Hmm.
We've lost sense of our power, lost sense of our value, lost sense of our loved, lovable, and loving nature,
Yeah.
um, to some level. And so
Hmm.
reach for a safe hand to come alongside of you. And if you reach for a hand that you thought was a safe hand, a safe companion, and it's not, drop it and reach for a different hand. Let's look
Yeah.
for safer and safer hands as we move along this story called life.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I think that's what you and the others do for the Rethinking God with Tacos podcast, which is Jason Clark's podcast, and Brooke is a big piece of that. So I just to take a couple minutes, unpack some of the things you're involved in. So Rethinking God with Tacos podcast
Hmm.
and community, the conference that's coming up in September. What's your hope?
Yes.
Like for you, what is your contribution? How do you see this is why Brooke Waters is a part of the Rethinking God with Tacos conversation.
Um, hmm.
Yeah, there you go. Just wondering. Just wondering.
A little bit. Why are you there? Um, that's a great question. I was going through my own process of just growing in awareness of union, not because I didn't believe, I think I've known about union my whole life, but I didn't ever have language for it. And I read Jason's book, Leaving and Finding
Mm.
Jesus, and everything in that book, I was like, you're literally saying what's going on inside of me, and it's in a book. It resonated with me so much in a time that was so difficult for me. I reached out to him because that's just the type of person I am. And just I went on Instagram, I reached out to him, and I just started telling him all these things that his book's doing for me. My husband was reading it. I'm like having everyone around me read this book. And I started doing book studies. It just all these things. And I asked Jason, I was like, let's just see if he wants to join us. I don't know. And he did, because he's a relational guy. And so he's like, of course. And our friendship just grew. And it's funny because they started the Facebook group. It was like October or August 26th, not last year, but the year before. And I was like, look, whatever you guys do, I want to be a part of it. I'm gonna just give you all my energy, just like, in all of it. And just some of the things that I had posted on Facebook, not Facebook, but Instagram. Jason's like, oh, I like the way you do that. I said, hey, if you ever need like anyone to do this for you, I can do it. And he just kind of laughed, and it wasn't dismissive. It was just like, do you really want to do that? Because the way I received it. And just along the way, I just kept being involved in now I'm on the board of a family story, and I'm like, Jason, our family is in it with you guys. And he did our 20-year vow renewal
Ah,
last August. I
yeah.
know last July they came to Florida, and we had a very small vow renewal, and like they're family to us. And the the redemptive story in their community, even though they're a distance away, I'm like, this is what community is.
Yeah.
This is what it looks like to care for someone and to honor. And the way Jason has been very honoring to me, just even as a female, has restored so much for me.
Yeah.
And when we did the first tacos event, that's kind of my wheelhouse a little bit, just throwing um, events together and managing a whole conference, all of that. I can just really easily, it's like back burner type of thing. Don't really think about it. It just kind of happens, right? And I think it was a big step for Jason to do that, but it went so smoothly. It went, I didn't have any issues. The whole process was just so redemptive for me, also, just on the backside of it. Even being part of it and just being able to be present with everyone was also just amazing. But before the conference was even over, and I'm like, let's do another one. And he's like, oh my God, can we finish this one? And so naturally, it's like the community was thriving in it. There was so much life and such great response to it. Of course, we're going to do another one. And I'm in it to win it. I'm in it for the long haul. And I love everything that a family story, Rethinking God with Tacos, is doing, because to me, it really exemplifies what church can look like
Yeah.
and what community is. And it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be just, it's all of it, both and, you know?
Yeah. I love that. So Rethinking God with Tacos conference or the family reunion is September 2025. What are the exact dates?
The 25th through the 27th. It's in Charlotte.
Yeah.
There's an Eventbrite. We're on there. But if you go to a familystory.org / RGWT, it'll have all the information. I think it has it on the
Yeah.
familystory.org as
I'll put
well
it
on the
below
front.
too. I'll put it
Okay.
below. And then a family story is, and I'm going to put all of this information, all
Yeah.
the links, is the umbrella that Rethinking God with Tacos is under.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. It's like a whole holistic, like if it doesn't fit in within the family unit, I think it just it doesn't it doesn't um work as part of the thing. And he's got all kinds of like articles on there. He's written so many things. So if people like to read what Jason writes, there's a ton of stuff on there. So
yeah.
and all of his podcasts are on there also. But a family story is also just in regards to film and art. It's not just one-sided, if that makes sense.
That's cool. That's so there's yeah. So if you're listening, it sounds like it's a place to be curious and to
Yes.
see some different things
Hmm.
and to play around with on that website. And then Brooke, your
Hmm.
website is a path to wholeness, so maybe you could just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, my website's a pathtoWholeness.org. And it's so interesting as I streamline my own life, how you can just see my language changing, just things changing on my website, and even over the last year. But really, it still comes from a place of coming alongside people. I have workshops, I have retreats. I have two retreats, one that I do yearly. It's called the Wholeness Retreat. It's usually in November. Another one I just started this year is called the Whole Body Reset.
Oh.
And yeah, that one's a lot of fun, but it's an immersive, because again, when we're making decisions to do something different, it's hard to do it on your own. And so the Whole Body Reset's about circadian rhythm, sugar detox, mitochondria health, like address grounding, sleep, all of the things, just addressing your whole body as a whole. And we do it with you. We teach you how to cook with it. We teach you how to, hey, get up, let's go watch the sun. Hey, it's time to, it's an immersive. And it was the first year I did it. And the girls, the people who've attended, are just flourishing right now. And so proud of them. So proud of them.
Amazing.
Um, so those two things. And then um, I actually, I recorded like 3 modules of all these videos that will come out in September for sale on a path to wholeness, basically, that people can purchase. I haven't really
Wow.
told anyone about that yet, but
You heard it here first. You heard it here first.
yeah. I really haven't even said anything about it because the edit, all the things that are happening, but I'm really excited about that. Um, yeah, there's a lot of movement, and my book is on, well, it's not on the website, but I have a couple different exercise books, not working out, but I don't know what.
Contemplative
Yeah.
exercise, experiential,
Yeah.
like journaling.
hmm That can help people process emotions and understand their process of gratitude as well. Those are two different things. But then Identity Unveiled, Steps to Freedom is a all overarching, because really what I want to help people do is uncover their identity to
Yes.
overcome limiting beliefs and walk or live authentically. And so any
Yes.
way that I can do that, I tried to bring all these things together. I'm like, here's another tool. Here's another tool. So,
Yeah, I love lingering in the the action tendency of what you're doing and hearing the life force behind it and the love force,
mhm.
and this is, Brooke is a testimony of participation.
That's
And we're
good.
yeah, and we're in this beautiful landscape of like Brooke did, she's like, oh, I just love this guy, Jason's book,
Mhm.
and I don't care if I look weird, I'm gonna reach out.
Yeah.
And that's so much of our culture right now. Let's reach out to each other.
hmm Yeah, it's good.
Because you are weird, but he likes you. So
Yeah, I'm okay with being weird. I've learned to accept it. I trigger people. I'm weird and I am not everyone's cup of tea, and I know that, and it's okay.
yeah, and I love being weird too. And it's like we're just, yeah, we can just be people, messy, flawed, fabulous,
hmm
and lean more into our participation. So yeah, and then I was reading your bio. So before we wind
Oh
things
no.
down here, and it said that two things that Brooke likes or maybe loves. I can't remember. I'll assume you love these things are road trips and awkward moments.
I will thrive on the awkward moment easily.
Love it.
Easily. It's because I think a lot can happen in an awkward moment. And I don't mind the mess. I will sit in the mess with people. I don't mind the mess, and I don't mind silence. So that's another thing. If I'm leading a group or I'm doing something and I ask a question and it's silent, and then it gets silent long enough to where it's awkward, I will sit there because I'm not going to try to jump in,
Yeah.
you know. So it can, there have been moments where it's pretty awkward and I'm just like,
Uh,
someone's going to say something because they can't, it's going to happen. But yeah,
well,
I like,
I love that. And I look forward to a future full of awkward moments with you because they tend
yes,
to be in my vicinity. And I look forward to my plan is my ticket is bought and I'm planning
it's
to be at the
great.
Rethinking God with Tacos conference and I hope or family reunion where I
Yeah.
expect there'll be many awkward moments.
Oh, there will be. You can expect that 100%.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much, Brooke, and peace and love to you. And blessings on all that you're doing. And thank you for all that you are giving to this community. And thank you for all that I have gleaned off of and borrowed from
Hmm.
you.
Yeah, thank you. This is such an honor. And I was so like, I felt so touched and seen just being invited to even have a conversation. So I'm grateful for that. Thank you,
Uh,
Tara.
You're so welcome. And I like looking at you. So I'm fine with you being here. And I hope maybe, there'll be a moment where we'll be like, oh, maybe we get to push record again.
Yes, I will do that anytime. So,
Okay. All right.
yeah,
Well, take
thank
care.
you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
bye.